Hello guys, we're a few weeks away from Oscar night, and one of my favorite awards handed out on Oscar evening is that of the shorts categories. Not only are they some of the most toughest to predict, but it's part of the experience being able to watch all these different shorts and become invested in them. And even though the Academy Awards recently cut the shorts category from the live show, that doesn't mean that we have to stop watching and talking about all those shorts. So 2 days ago, I went to the theater and watched all the live action, the animated, the documentary shorts, and I'm gonna give you a breakdown of who I think is going to win the Oscars, provide a few stats, as well as give you my personal thoughts on each of the films as well. So let's dive right in with live action category. So this selection of films, almost all fall under the category or theme of social injustice, but the first one falls more under the topic of grief. On My Mind is a film from Denmark about a middle-aged man who walks into an empty bar and desperately requests to sing karaoke to an Elvis song for his wife. It's 60 minutes long, it's equally tender and sad. Personally, it was a good film, but for my taste, found it to be a little too sappy and simple to be my favorite of the bunch. However, I do think tonally it does kind of fit in the confines of what the Academy members typically go for. Please Hold is a dark comedy, often funny satire, offering really relevant commentary on our often unjust justice system. It's an English language entry from a Mexican-American director and follows a young man's nightmarish journey into being wrongfully arrested in a near future world where like prisons are pretty entirely controlled by artificial intelligence. Tonally, it actually reminded me of a really good episode of Black Mirror, and even last year's winner in this category, Two Distant Strangers. It offered a really relevant commentary on topics like privatized prisons, technology, and our flawed justice system in a way that happened to also be darkly funny and entertaining. The Dress is a Polish film that tells the story of a little person who works as a maid in a hotel. The actress in the film is pretty fantastic as we experience her loneliness and her longing to, have human connections and intimacy. The ending is a gut punch, to say the least. Overall, it's really well acted, it's well shot, and it's very authentic, but I'm not entirely sure it really falls under what the Academy typically goes for. The Long Goodbye is the one that stars Riz Ahmed. The film is about an immigrant family whose day in an English neighborhood suddenly breaks into full chaos from what appears to be an armed militia that invades their home. This one actually reminded me of the This Is America music video by Childish Gambino. It shares the same name as Riz Ahmed's album and featured Riz actually performing spoken word in the movie. It's definitely really tense. It makes a really relevant statement. I did think character-wise, though, to be completely honest, I really wish I got more from the characters and learned a little bit about them in a more personal way. The last film is called Take and Run, and it's the longest of the block, and it's about a young woman who is forced into a marriage. It's actually grounded in a very real custom in Kyrgyzstan called bride kidnapping, where men literally abduct women off the street and force them into marriage. And guys, it's terrifying. The film really takes its time walking you through just how traumatic these forced marriages look like and can be, and it's pretty shocking, especially knowing that these forced marriages, by the end of the film, still do happen in a lot of parts of the world. In terms of what my favorites were, personally, Please Hold was my favorite because I appreciate the film's ability to balance the comedic tones, while at the same time exploring, really important subject matter. Take and Run would probably be my second favorite. But in terms of who I think is going to win the Oscar, now that's actually a tough one. I feel it comes down to The Long Goodbye, Please Hold, with maybe an outside chance of Take and Run. Now I'm going to go ahead and whip out a stat that I think is really important when considering this category and predicting it. If you actually look at the recent winners, 9 out of the last 11 went to an English language film. So when predicting the winner, which by the way, in no means am I saying English films are better, but just purely looking at what the Academy typically goes for, they usually go for English language films for whatever reason. And also films that are about important subject matter and films that are pretty typically easy to follow are, I think, kind of what the Academy typically likes. So I'm really bouncing between two English language films this year, The Long Goodbye and Please Hold. The Long Goodbye has the star power of Riz Ahmed, a recent Best Actor nominee behind it, and it has important subject matter, but I do worry about how the average Academy voter would digest and really understand the point of the film. In fact, that concern was really echoed when I spoke to someone in the screening about their thoughts of the films. And even though this wasn't an Academy voter, this was someone in the same kind of demographic as the typical voter. But you know what? Here's an actual recording of the conversation I had with that particular moviegoer. Did you have a favorite one?
I think the last one was my favorite, but I did like the one from Poland because both of them, when you come right down to it, they're about women having dreams that can't be fulfilled. I liked the one from Poland. I did not understand the one from Great Britain. I didn't understand that one. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And
so that definitely makes me feel a little nervous about predicting The Long Goodbye. In my screening, it felt like Please Hold was the most entertaining to the viewers, but just concerned about whether it really, will leave an urgent and lasting imprint on the voters. Like Two Distant Strangers last year was kind of a Groundhog's Day version of talking about, police violence against people of color. And though it had comedic elements, it really drove home the point by the end of the film. When they scroll those names of the victims of police violence, it reminded you that you don't take this film lightly, and I think Please Hold could have really benefited from reminding the audience that though you just watch something with comedic undertones, don't forget that this is very much a real problem with real consequences. Though I have my concerns about The Long Goodbye and unsure story-wise whether it will fully connect with Academy voters, I have to imagine Riz Ahmed has enough friends in the Academy just to get enough votes. So I'm predicting The Long Goodbye for Best Live Action Short. All right, let's talk about those animated shorts. And boy, oh boy, this is probably the most outside the box nominees in years. And something pretty interesting in the screening, about like 2 shorts in, they put up a message on the big screen that basically said that the next 3 shorts features nudity and adult material. So now would be a good time to take the kids outside the theater, which I haven't really seen that for 3 shorts of the block. But starting with the one that is the most suitable to children, Robin is about a robin bird who is raised by a family of mice. It's a Netflix film. It's 30 minutes, stop motion, musical that is very Chicken Run kind of sensibility to it, with maybe like a little dash of Tim Burton. It's adorable. It's visually beautiful, but perhaps not the most original, but it's very, very cute. Box Ballet is a bittersweet romance between this brutish boxer and a ballerina. It's hand-drawn animation from Russia that feels like a mix between maybe Rocky and Wes Anderson. Overall, I think it's a very offbeat love story with kind of a sweet ending that sneaks up on you. The third film is a pencil sketch animation called Affairs of the Art. It's about a British woman who shares with the audience her frustration with aging, as well as disturbing tales from her childhood, mostly revolving around her sister. I thought it was pretty unapologetically cheeky and fun, but not sure how the Academy would respond to its style of humor, which at times I think they might find morbid. The fourth film is probably one that will somehow be ingrained in my brain forever, kind of like how Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin entered my subconscious and never quite left. Bestia is a Chilean stop-motion film about the haunting daily life of a secret policewoman and her German shepherd. There's something about her menacing porcelain face and the film's disturbing imagery that really is unsettling and really tough to shake. I do think it's most likely too dark for the Academy's taste, especially 2 scenes that involves the dog, and I won't spoil what those scenes are. You pretty much gotta watch it for yourself. The final film is called The Windshield Wiper, which is kind of these, I guess you can describe them as series of vignettes that's kind of stems from this man in a cafe asking the question of what is love, especially in the new modern era of technology-driven world of dating. The film uses 3D animation and digitally painted backgrounds, and the film definitely rewards those who maybe already have a palette to appreciate the more, poetic and artistically abstract type of storytelling, as the scenes and the vignettes are really loosely tied together. In terms of what my favorite was, it would probably be Robin Robin and Bestia. In terms of the film, I think has the best chance of winning, not based on artistic merit, just based on how I feel the Academy members typically vote. I feel like it's between two films, Robin Robin and Box Ballet, and perhaps an outside chance of Windshield Wiper. And the reason why is, well, actually, let's take a look at another Oscar stat. Looking at the most current trends the Academy tends to award since 2010, every film that has won this category was an English language film or a film with zero dialogue. In fact, 8 out of the last 11 winners in this category went to an American film, the exception being The Lost Thing, Mr. Hublot, and Bear Story. This year, I believe nearly all the films had English or zero dialogue. Now, with that being said, other trends worth mentioning, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this one already, but the Academy also tends to really enjoy films that feature really cute animals, and we've seen that with recent winners like Feast, Piper, Bear Story, and also they like films that are relatively easy to follow, and especially if they're very PG leaning. Robin Robin, while I do worry about whether the Academy voters will feel maybe it's too kiddie and not emotional or substantial enough, if there was another film that could win, I would probably say it's Box Ballet. I think the story is simple enough and has a sweet kind of undertone to it, but I don't know, I just think looking at the winners from the past decade, I think Robin Robin just really fits the bill a little easier. So Robin Robin is my prediction for Best Animated Short. But enough about what I think. Let's once again go to our other moviegoer who I happened to catch up with outside the theater.
Well, to be honest, I had difficulty understanding of all of them. I had difficulty figuring out what all of them were what point they were trying to make, including Robin Robin. Why did they break into people's homes and steal?
If you had to pick one of them, what would you choose?
Probably the last one, I guess.
Windshield Wiper?
I like the Russian one. I think I like the one from Russia.
All right, now let's go right into the documentary shorts, and let me tell you, out of the live action, animated, and documentaries this year, the documentaries are actually my favorite. The first one is called Audible, that follows a high school football team at the Maryland School for the Deaf. It focuses mainly on one particular player playing out his last season. The film is shot very stylistically, such as scenes where players are banging on lockers to rev themselves up, or when they give each other passionate pep talks via sign language. The film has plenty of also intimate and quiet moments as well between the students. And I almost feel like you're watching a really good indie narrative short sometimes. Lead Me Home is a documentary on the homeless epidemic. The documentary uses a variety of interviews of unhoused people to get insight into their daily struggle. The topic is definitely important, and there's so many subjects in the film, and maybe the scope is probably a little too wide, because capturing, all the intricacies surrounding homelessness in 40 minutes it's a pretty challenging task. When We Were Bullies is an interesting doc about a filmmaker who looks back at a bullying incident that took place at his elementary school over 50 years ago, and kind of the guilt he carries with him and the part that he played in it. Most of the film is him tracking down old classmates to tell their recounts of the incident, and I'm not sure the film fully reaches a satisfying ending or conclusion, but it is interesting, and it's an interesting exercise to say the least. Then we have Queen of Basketball. This is about Lucy Harris as she recalls her inspiring career as a basketball player, including being the first woman officially to be drafted by an NBA team. The archival footage is cut with energy, which makes it very exciting, but what makes the short is really Lucy Harris herself. She has such a warm and charismatic presence. It's pretty impossible not to adore her, and I think the Academy voters will eat it up. I think everyone will probably love this one. The final documentary short is called 3 Songs from Benazir. This is probably the one that stuck with me the most personally. It documents a newlywed who yearns to provide for his future family in an Afghani refugee camp. This one really stuck with me because the documentary, really zeroes in on our subject specifically and his human nature struggle and his love for his wife. And then also on top of that, we have this like political reality that's always looming in the background. I honestly could have watched an entire feature following this subject. If I were choosing who to give the award to, I think I would probably award it to 3 Songs of Benazir. My second favorite was Queen of Basketball, and I think that's the film that the Academy would choose as well. I think Audible and 3 Songs of Benazir, really stands a chance, but I think Queen of Basketball just really strikes me as the one that the Academy, I think, would really have a hard time resisting because, they're not just voting for the film, but they're voting for the subject of that short, Lucia Harris, as well. Also, I think the Academy tends to really like films, about an important organization, a very timely issue, or features a lovable character. And I think there's a lot of films in this category that meet some of those criteria. And so just for me, I'm just gonna go with the one that I feel will probably garner the most votes just by my gut, and I'm going with Queen of Basketball. But what about you guys? Which Oscar-nominated short did you love, and which film do you think will win the Oscar come Oscar evening? Comment below. I always love hearing from you all. Also, if you haven't seen the shorts this year, about half of these shorts are actually available to watch on Netflix or somewhere online for free. So I'll be sure to include some of those information and links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more Oscar and movie related content, feel free to hit that subscribe button below. Very soon I'm going to be uploading my annual Oscar experiment video where we see if we can predict Best Picture together, as well as my Oscar final predictions in all categories. And of course, I'll bring the stats with me. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you all at the Oscars.